And good morning, everyone, or good afternoon if you're joining us from the East. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Joanna Pagonis, and I'll be your host for this webcast series. Tackle Tuesdays is a series that explores and examines different topics and issues in organizational behavior. Our topics include things like culture, leadership, EI, emotional intelligence, and leading through COVID. So I am the owner of Sinogap Solutions. It's a leadership consulting firm, and we partner with organizations in developing employee engagement and leadership development strategies that contribute to a company's ability to continually grow and achieve its mission. So for today's webcast, our title is Leap into the Courage Zone, how to have courageous conversations with your team. And my guest today is Karmen Masson, professional coach and leadership consultant. Karmen brings over 22 years of combined experience as a lawyer, senior manager, executive leader, post-secondary instructor, and now coach and leadership consultant. Her experience in leading and coaching through times of uncertainty and change has equipped her to help others overcome their toughest challenges. Karmen is someone who I've worked closely with over the years, and I have come to know her as someone who is supportive, empathetic, and inspiring. And she really does believe that no one should struggle alone. And with the right support, people can achieve greater calm, clarity, and fulfillment, even when times are tough, like the times that we're experiencing right now. So thank you so much, Karmen, for joining us. How are you today?
I am very well, thank you. And thank you for that very, very kind introduction. It's warming me up for our conversation.
Good, I'm so glad. I should mention to everyone who is joining us that you do have a group chat, you have access to that, and I encourage you to enter your comments or your thoughts or your insights or questions throughout the next 30 minutes, and I'll be reading them and sharing them with Karmen and asking her to respond if it's a question or to give her insights and perspective to some of the things that you're sharing. So yeah, we got 30 minutes on the clock, so let's get right into it. I wanted to ask you if you would be willing to share a little bit about your career path, because as I shared, you have quite a vast experience, right? Diverse experience in different facets and different industries. And I was hoping you could share with us a little bit around what led you into leadership consulting and to start your own business.
Great question. So I'm going to admit right off the bat that that's a tough question. And the reason it's tough for me is because over the last 25 years, since I started, graduated from university as a lawyer, my career path it looks a bit like a roller coaster ride if you were to kind of map it out. So, and I'll tell a little story if you're okay with that, Joanna.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I started out 25 years ago as a lawyer. And so imagine you go to university for, in total, about 7 years. And your training is very technical in the sense that you are trained to know the law and to advise and counsel in it. What you're not trained to do is a lot of what I experienced as a leader and as a manager too. So that's my background. It's in law, started in law in private practice, went into government practice, then started in some leadership roles, and they were often combined legal and leadership roles. So I had kind of two hats. I was constantly switching on and off. And I'll be honest with you, I was not great at the manager/leader side in those early years because I was just doing what I thought was right. I had no training at all. And so I struggled a lot in that kind of switch over from straight out lawyer to manager and executive or leader.
Right.
So in my later years, because this could be a really long story, in my later years, I came to realize that my interest and my strengths were on the leadership side of things. And my desire to actually change and make things better, whether it was in the justice system that I was working in or in the charitable sector that I had a ton of involvement over many years in, or even in post-secondary, I constantly had this drive inside of me to change things, to improve things, to make things better for the people that we were serving. So there came a point in the later years of my career when to be really honest, I became frustrated. I was working in really difficult systems that they're hard to change. And my frustration led me at one point to say, you know what? Where can you make the most impact and the most difference in this world? How can you best contribute? And at about the same time that I was having that conversation with myself, I was also training in coaching skills. And, that kind of combination of events made me realize that the best, most direct impact that I could have was to be working with either individuals or teams or organizations to help them be better, to help them improve. So the progression took me a long time, but I'm not regretting that roller coaster ride of a career in a sense. I look at it as a learning journey that has really equipped me to dive in to helping people and their organizations to be better.
Right. Yeah, I guess what I'm hearing you say is over the years, you really became more clear on what your purpose was, what you love to do, what you're passionate about, what your purpose was and is, and what was important for you over the years, what you discovered was aligning the two and making that leap to start your own business so you could actually do that full time. And how has it been going since you've done that?
Well, on days like today, it's fabulous because I get to have these kinds of conversations. I'll tell you the highlight really of being an entrepreneur and working closely with people who want to change either themselves or their organizations. The reward in it is that it's really a test of people's capability. And I truly believe that people have the answers inside of them. And they are, not only do they have abilities, but they have capabilities and great potential that with a partner like myself as a coach, I'm able to help them bring out their best. That's the beauty of my work. And that's what keeps me going every day.
Yeah, right. Guys, I mean, that is the foundation of coaching, correct? I know today we're going to be talking about courageous conversations, but can you talk a little bit about coaching? Because I'm very familiar with coaching. My background is in psychology. And so when I learned about coaching, I'm like, oh, I can relate to that, the process of it and the theory behind it. But it's still new for quite a lot of people. So before we get into what the courage zone is, I thought we should I think it would be a good opportunity for you to talk a little bit about coaching, those kind of conversation, and like what the power behind coaching is.
It's a fantastic question. And I'm going to say, Joanna, I think it is a 100% related to our conversation today about, hey, what is a courageous conversation and how do I do it? Because that's what I want people to leave with is the how, right? So coaching and what is experienced in a pure coaching conversation, in my opinion, is helping a person move into what we're going to talk about today, this courage zone. So it's all about helping, supporting, and championing a person to actually be more courageous, more confident, perhaps even more creative and innovative in their thinking by working with a coach who is going to be like a thinking partner with them and is going to guide them in their conversation to help them move into this courage zone. Because myself included, a lot of us, we do not naturally just jump into the courage zone. And there's a lot of reasons behind why we don't.
Okay, interesting. Can you share some of those reasons?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it actually it makes me think of leaders that I work with closely as a coach or in my consulting practice as well. So what I see really a lot of is people expressing an open door policy, for example. Oh yes, my door is always open. You're welcome to come in and share your thoughts. And if something's not going well, come in and talk to me. I'm here for you. That lip service, to be very frank, And again, I have a great deal of empathy and compassion for today's leaders who might be saying they have that open door policy, but don't really. I get it. I've been there. I've been in those shoes, and I know how hard it is to juggle between piles of complex competing demands and having a team of people who need you and want you. And and you have organizational objectives. So the dilemma for a lot of folks who are in leadership positions. And when I say leadership, know that I'm talking about leaders at all levels. I don't necessarily mean the person with the corner office and the bronze placard on their door. I mean anyone. What is difficult for people is that we have intentions inside of us, like open door policies. We say we want to listen, we say we want to help people, we say we want to develop them, but when the rubber hits the road, our actions are often not quite in alignment with those intentions. And some of it is due to busyness, yes, but a lot of it is to do with a lot of other stuff that is what I would describe as kind of what we don't see. It's like below the surface. What goes on and actually sometimes holds us back from really being supportive and open to team members coming in our door and sharing what's really on their mind, the hard stuff or the changes that maybe they could propose. So that's, and again, it was a dilemma for me for a long time. And it's a dilemma for many leaders is, it's, oh, my door is open, come on in. But yet they're kind of hiding in their office.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm hearing is there are a couple of reasons. Number one is the ability in terms of just the sheer time and capability we have to really have that door open and to truly make ourselves accessible, which is a real challenge, one that I've experienced as well. But beyond that, because I feel like that we can maybe strategize and work with leaders around how to become more accessible, how to manage your time and your energy. It's a little bit more tangible and easy to deal with and mitigate. But the other thing I'm hearing you talk about is like the iceberg analogy, where what we see on the surface is maybe 20% of what's actually occurring. And underneath the large, massive ice, which is the other 80%, all of these things that really we're not always consciously aware of, that really do influence our thoughts and our behaviors and therefore, our actions. And so some of those things, what I heard you saying, correct me if I'm wrong, is things that I've experienced as well, is some of the assumptions that we may have and some of the fears we may have about if we open our door, what will people actually say? And what do we respond to that? What if we a lot of the managers and executives I worked with have something in common. They like to be able to control the outcome. And what I guess I hear you saying is if you leap into the courage zone, you can't always control the outcome. If you're really going to have your door open and people are going to come, you have to be open to whatever they may share. And is that really what the courage zone is being able to say, to admit, I'm kind of scared of this experience and what may come from it, but I'm going to be courageous and see what happens.
I think you're hitting a lot of targets here, Joanna. Okay. Absolutely. And I think the best way I can describe, and I'm going to describe it as a shift. So if we started in, for most human beings, we're going to start in what I'm going to describe as the caution zone. And I'll just really quickly, I'll paint a quick picture of what I think that looks like for a lot of leaders. So to begin with, like you said, Joanna, we come with some assumptions, our perceptions. They're based on, could be something someone said to us as a child or growing up or, in our stages of development. So we have these underlying beliefs. Sometimes they show up as self-doubt. Sometimes, like you said, they show up as fears. And they're driving our behaviors and they're causing us to maybe not connect with people because inside of us live these stories and these assumptions, like you said, that are built up in our minds around, I'm too busy, I know more than the rest of these people. What, or I have the responsibility. I'm the captain of my ship. These kinds of things. And again, what are they really there? They're, like you said, they're their beliefs. Sometimes they're limiting beliefs. They might be doubts. They might be some attitudes that can be actually changed.
Yeah.
But having said that, so I'm trying to, again, create this picture of this caution zone. So you described it, you got it. Underneath the surface, we don't see these things, but they would go on inside of us in the caution zone are things that are really holding us back from connecting with people. And so our listening can become defensive.
Yes.
Our ability to actually talk with people and ask them questions that would actually explore and elicit information from them can be limited. Our ability to even talk about and have a true healthy dialogue about a different perspective than maybe someone is carrying. Like even that can be completely, like people are shut off in the caution zone. They don't want to go there because that's hard, like you said, scary work, because it's tied to our emotions. So, okay, so now I'm gonna try to jump us, or not jump us, but leap us into the courage zone. And for me, Joanna, the starting point of the shift has to do, and this is gonna sound like I'm stepping back a bit, and I am, we need to work on our mindset before we can get to the important skills. And the mindset that I find is most conducive in the courage zone is one that I would describe as a learner's mindset, an open mindset, a growth mindset. So before we even have a conversation with someone, we need to really be open, interested, like truly curious about other people's perspectives and what they're going through and how they might be feeling. What's on their mind? What's their perspective? And so this is gonna, this mindset work is really the precursor and the necessary precursor to being curious. And so if we have that open learner's growth mindset, we can then be more curious and authentic in our curiosity. And when we do meet with somebody that comes through our door, instead of having stories or assumptions in our mind about what this person's going to say or how difficult they are, et cetera, we're going to be open to listening to them and truly understanding them, even if we don't agree with them. And that's in a nutshell, that's empathy.
Right.
And that is a huge part of being effective in the courage zone, is practicing curiosity, empathy, that compassion.
And from your experience, the people who are being coached, so if a supervisor was to take this coach approach to having a courageous conversation, the person who is then, in a sense, being coached, or the person who's sharing, what they need to share and get it off their chest, do you find, from your practice and your experience, are those people seeking a magical solution to whatever it is that they're bringing to the table? Or are they really seeking somebody who can just listen to them?
Well, I guess it would depend on what the person is coming in to get off their chest, kind of thing. If I was to think of an example that would be relevant to today, and the best one I can think of is, okay, a lot of folks are re-entering post-pandemic. Well, we're still in the pandemic, I realize that, but they're going back into offices. There are people that are truly worried about, having close contact with coworkers or customers and clients, etc. So they're coming back to this work situation with a lot on their minds. And, how many people feel comfortable enough to actually express their fears or their doubts or their uncomfortableness or the myriad of feelings that are going through them, right? So I think that as leaders, the more opportunities we can create to have safe, supportive spaces that are truly, and again, we're in the courage zone here, that are truly curious conversations about, hey, how are you doing since we've come back? How are you feeling about things? And it's hard. It's really hard, Joanna, I find. And it's hard for the folks that I work with to use words like, how are you feeling about things? Because we're not trained to speak that language in the workplace. And that, in my opinion, is a dilemma that many, many leaders at all levels and all levels of experience face, is that they don't have the language around their own emotional recognition and management, never mind the social or the coming together with other people and talking with them and helping to them to manage how they're actually really doing on the inside.
Right. What are some things, so like, let's say there's someone who's listening and wants to practice being more in the courage zone and wanting to embrace that a bit more. What are some things that they could actually do? I know we only got, 30 minutes isn't a long time to really coach somebody in how to do that, but is there something that you can share with them that will
absolutely
set them on the right path? Yeah. Okay.
We can. Let's get to it.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and this goes back, I guess, to what I talked about earlier in terms of creating a safe, supportive space. A question that I would pose to anybody who's listening and who's thinking about, like, what are the tactics? What can I take away? How often do you meet with your people? I'm going to call it face to face, even if it's, remotely. And I'll extend that to how often do you do that in a group? How often do you do that one-on-one? And the one-on-one, in my opinion, is key. I think that the one-on-one connection is invaluable. And the more as leaders that we can listen and show people that we are open to their perspective, even if it's hard, even if they're having a hard time coming back to work, just saying you get it and you understand them and confirming that understanding. That to me is, one of the, let's call it a tactic, but it's essential. It's that one-on-one. I'm listening to you. I get you. I value you. I want you to move forward. And that kind of conversation is in a sense, it's a coach approach, let's call it. It's not necessarily coaching, because coaching is very, in its purest form, is a bit different than that. Yeah. But at least in moments of our one-on-one connection with people, is to create that safe, supportive, empathetic, compassionate space where people can be honest and truthful with us. Like, just practicing that and having a regular momentum to that. And it can feel contrived at the beginning. I'll admit that myself. I've had many people report to me over the years, and sometimes they come in and they're like, here I am again. And it's all about, maybe it's just a 2-minute check-in, but it's an openness. And after it becomes a regular habit and the trust is built in those one-on-one conversations, that's when the magic can happen. And when I say the magic, that's when you can move a little bit further still in the courageous zone, but with your questions, not so much just how are you doing, but hey, what are your thoughts on this project or this problem? Yeah, and let them speak. And if they don't know the answer, my best advice is not to throw them a lifeline and say, well, we could do this and this and this. Because as leaders, yes, we like to show that we know a lot. But let's kind of open the agenda up, or the dialogue up, and empower that person we're having that conversation with. Show that we trust their capability. And so all of this, I'm kind of talking about a one-on-one. All of this can be applied to groups as well. With groups, we obviously have a different dynamic. And the question of safety and openness in a conversation becomes very different. And so for some leaders, they do well at it, but the struggle can be the individuals on a team and what they're dealing with themselves and what might be holding them back from feeling safe to actually say something that's on their mind in front of other people. So there's some work there too that can be done. And I think, my best recommendation for leaders working with groups, especially when there are, there's a sense maybe that there's some differences of opinion. You have some people not speaking up, not asking questions, not contributing. So how can you, as a leader, nurture those relationships? Is it one-on-one to have a conversation with them about how they might contribute more in the group? It might be some exercises with a team or a group to try to get to know one another a little bit more than just what's on the agenda. That can help too. But anything you can do to help people collaborate, to connect, to show that they actually are human and that they like to listen and care about other people, that will go a long way in working with your teams as well. And again, it's in our short time together, it's there's just so much that can be done, but it's these key skills, these foundational pieces around empathy and compassion and creating these safe, supportive environments that to me are just, that's the key. You can do all these other little things, but you got to create the environment, the safety, the trust.
That happens consistently over time. Strength-Based Leadership, the book, when I read it, they talk about the 4 characteristics that followers have said over and over and over again that they look for in leaders. One was trust. The other one was consistency, compassion, and hope. And I think if we were to apply the approaches that you've laid out, a leader could actually accomplish all those 4 things and demonstrate those 4 characteristics. Because even through Brene Brown's work, and she talks about vulnerability and developing trust, she says that it's not these big, grand things that you do to develop trust. It's the small day-to-day things that you're doing to demonstrate compassion and that you're making time for people. And one of the things that frustrated me so much as I was moving up in my career, when I was an individual contributor and working in some cultures that were great, but I've also worked in some cultures that were fractured, not very positive, right? And relationships were broken. And the leadership at the time would say, let's just deal with it by having a big, fun team building event. And you'd see the conflict between people coming up to the team building event. The people arguing, they got too competitive. It wasn't about the spirit of team. It was all about who could win. And it just got out of hand. And I'm like, you don't address issues like that and build trust once a year when you have to. You do it regularly and consistently over time through one-on-ones and bringing people together for team meetings and things like that. We're getting close to the end. Just one thing too, there's something that's on my mind. Are there some things that you've seen leaders do that you would recommend they stop doing, especially in one-on-one meetings?
Well, Joanna, and again, I know we're running out of time. I'm going to say 2 big things. Okay. Number 1, and this is a big concept, but I'm going to throw it out there. I have to, is be cognizant of how much you are working in your head as opposed to your head and your heart as a leader. And to me, that is the major blockage for leaders, is they think that what they know, their knowledge, and the answers that they have are in their head. And when they're, for example, having a difficult conversation, they might have a script to say, these are the things that have happened. This is what is going to happen to you. This is the end of our conversation, period. To me, that is head talk.
Yes.
We need to link in our hearts. And I'm not saying we need to reveal all of the feelings that we have. No. But I am saying, as we've been talking about in this conversation, we need to be empathetic. We need to listen, to learn and understand what other people are saying to us. And that listening, it is so much beyond the words. So being cognizant of, are you working in your head? And how can you link in the heart here? It doesn't have to be touchy-feely,
Right.
but how can you link heart and show you have openness to really wanting to connect with your people? It's a big question. The other major thing that I can't talk about enough is, as leaders, we need to drop the know-it-all, the need to know it all. We need to start trusting in the capability of the folks that are working with us. And so the less we can throw people a lifeline and make suggestions and, hey, have you tried this? The better, because we're going to empower them and show them that we trust them, because they are just as capable, if not more, than us.
Right.
So to me, those are big things to work on, but they're important.
And it almost brings us full circle to one of the first things that you said when we started our webcast this morning. You said what you believe is that there is limitless potential in people, and with the right environment, they can achieve it. And so the mindset of the leader in these kind of conversations is, I don't need to have all the answers, nor do I probably have all the answers. The person sitting in front of me has a lot of those answers. I have to believe that they are capable of problem solving and finding the solution. My role is to be that guide on the side, to support them in that, but not to tell them what to do. Especially as we're reopening our businesses, we're going to be encountering things we have never encountered before. And we can't be there to have all the answers all the time. And the more that we disempower people by telling them what to do, the harder we're making our jobs. We're really making our jobs harder. Aren't we busy enough as leaders? Do we also have to be doing the work of our administrative assistants? Do we have to be doing the work of our frontline supervisors or whoever, right? We need to let them do their work. These are some of the takeaways that I got from this, Karmen.
Mm-hmm. And there's, maybe we'll have another conversation another day, Joanna, because what you're describing to me are also some of the major challenges that, I deal with a lot in my work around having difficult conversations and kind of being comfortable, being maybe a coach sometimes. I'm going like this because I'm putting on I have this little gig thing where I have different hats. Sometimes I wear my coach hat. Sometimes I wear my leader hat. Sometimes I wear my manager hat, and I have to be very clear about what the expectations are. So that comfort in knowing that you can take off these hats when it's right for the situation, I think is really key for people to know that it's not just, as leaders, we're many different things and we bring many different skills, and we need to kind of be comfortable and be okay with being fluid and agile in our approaches with people, because as humans, we have to expect that things are going to change day by day by day. And that makes things really hard. But I do, as you said, believe that people are capable of dealing with these really difficult, hard things in a way that feels right for them.
Right. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Karmen. That brings us to the end of our Tackle Tuesday for today. That was a wonderful conversation. I learned so much. I hope other people who are listening and joined were able to get something valuable out of it. I'm sure they did. Before we disconnect, I just wanted to give you an opportunity is there something that you're working on, a new initiative that you would like to share with people, or let them know how they can contact you and some of the things that you can provide to them as support?
I guess my shout out will be, at this time, I would love to connect with anyone who has a difficult conversation on their mind, and know that you don't have to be an executive or a CEO to reach out to me. If you're interested in trying coaching, I would love to connect with you, and you can connect with me via my website. It's Karmen Masson, and Karmen is with a K, and Masson is with 2 S's, karmenmasson.com. You can go onto my website, and I have a contact form there. Send me a message and say, hey, I'd like to try coaching around a difficult conversation with you. And I'd be glad to extend that to people.
Perfect. And I put Masson.com in the comment box. So I'm just going to put that on Facebook as well, so people can connect with you. You're also on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So they can connect with you there too. Okay, well, wonderful. Thank you so much. Please, I encourage you to connect with Karmen. She is a wonderful coach, as you've heard today, and she can really help you move forward through this very challenging and uncertain time. So thank you so much, Karmen. Thank you to everyone for joining us today. Next week, we'll have a guest, Lydia Pagonis. Yes, we share the same last name. She is my sister. And we're actually going to be talking about the many, many balls that managers are having to juggle, like all day virtual meetings. And we did talk about today, like the time crunch that you're faced with in terms of trying to juggle being available to your team, but also trying to get everything done on your to-do plate while attending one meeting after another. So we're going to dive into that and share some strategies that managers can use to manage their time and their energy. So thank you to everyone. Have a wonderful day and rest of the wonderful week. And I'll be seeing you next week. Thank you so much, Karmen.
Thank you, Joanna. Have a great day.
You too. Goodbye, everyone.